We're going to talk about understanding the degree requirements, and we're going to talk a little bit about college knowledge. You will attend an advising appointment. Now, some of you, this says tomorrow, but actually, most of you will attend some of you will attend your appointment today with some of our advisors in our office. Some of you may have an appointment tomorrow, and then you'll be registering immediately after your appointment. So one of the first questions I think we have for students, and feel free to use the chat function if you want to share, but what interests you or excites you about studying at the University of Oregon? And what might be some of the challenges or concerns? So please, if you can, each of you just write a quick, it doesn't have to be a paragraph or anything, just something that you might be concerned about, some of the challenges that you think you might be facing, or just something that might excite you about coming to the University of Oregon. I'll give you a few seconds there to just type some responses there. Don't be shy.
You know, back when I was an undergraduate, one of my major challenges or concerns was it was the first time I was away from home. So that could be a challenge or concern I have. Also, I had the challenge that I was a very slow reader. So I really had to look for support around that. So those are some of the things I might write.
And that's Ted, academic advisor. Thanks, Ted. Yeah, so someone wrote, size of the school, not getting any special accommodations, figuring out what classes to take. These are all very, very normal, very, very normal concerns. Leaving the island, definitely. Yeah, great responses there. So part of the tools that you will need to overcome some of these challenges is really building what we call your academic team. Now, I want you to think about a time in your life, like you're maybe like in your high school or wherever you're coming from, that you weren't necessarily all by yourself. You had your support team. Maybe it was like your parents, your counselor. Maybe there was an instructor that you could relate with, and you could have conversations about, and they helped you along the way. In a way, they formed your team, right? And that's the same team that we're going to ask you to form here at the U of O. Sometimes these connections, these relationships that you build, we forget about the people in our lives that are helping us be successful. Here on the screen is just an example of a few of the resources that we have to help you build your academic team. So your academic department, for example, can help you navigate all the courses that you would need to take for your specific major, whether there's any special sequences that you need to take in any particular order, or prerequisites, courses that you have to take before you can take other courses. If you're an international student, polishing up your English skills, taking some AIS language courses. We also have the Center for Multicultural Academic Excellence. Our office, the Office of Academic Advising, that helps students that are going through transition. So whether you're declared or undeclared, if you're going through some kind of transition, like orientation, right? Like you're going from not being a university student to being a university student, that's definitely a transition. So you'll be working with our office. Or if you're changing majors, for example, or you want to talk about adding a minor or adding a different major, that's what our office does. Teaching and Learning Center is a resource that helps students focus on study skills, time management. They have writing and math, workshops and spaces where you can get support. The Accessible Education Center is for any kind of accommodations, any kind of documented accommodations, and then the Student Support Services, which is a TRIO program, offers advising and other types of support. If you're a first-gen student, I urge you to talk to your first-generation student, meaning you're the first person in your family to go to college, or you have a disability. I would urge you to tell your advisor or ask them about the SSS program, because we might be able to connect you with some really cool resources on campus.
One of the basic things to remember is you don't have to memorize all these different departments and stuff. Just remember the Office of Academic Advising. We can be that sort of main resource where we can help you find the other resources that you need and help you find sort of, roadways to them and sometimes even people in those areas. So if you ever have a question, you can't find the resource, always stop by the Office of Academic Advising.
Thanks, Ted. That's absolutely true. Your job is not to memorize all these things. Your job is to be a student, but you do have to come in and chat with us if you have questions, right? So on that note, what do you think the role of advising is? So I'm going to give you a few seconds here to use the chat feature to maybe, I want to hear what your idea of an advising scenario. What do you go to advisors for? What do you expect from advisors? Give you a few seconds there to respond with the chat. Awesome, great responses. Direction, to guide and support, options, guidance, to help us, direct us, answer questions, for help. Yeah, that's exactly. I think you all hit the nail right in the head. Advisors here are not here to tell you what to do. I think Bill says it best. We advise, you decide, but the important thing is that you know all your options and understand why you're making certain decisions and taking certain directions that you're going. So that's why it's so important. Looks like somebody came in here as their camera on. Let me just camera off there. Yeah, so that's why it's so important that you're meeting with advisors so that you know all your options. The university is such a big place. There's so many things, so many opportunities. You just want to make sure that you are connected, right? So speaking about being connected, how many of you have set up your email, your U of O email? Go ahead in the chat, put yes if you have, no if you haven't. I guess you don't have to put no, but it'd be great if we got some kind of idea how many of you have actually set up your email, your U of O official email. I want you to know that the U of O official form of communication is through email. So if we need to get a hold of you, it's going to be through that uoregon.edu account. Also, once you move to Eugene, you're probably going to have a different mailing address. So you want to go ahead and update that on your DuckWeb as well once you figure out where you're going to live. Really, really important, because if we need to get a hold of you, these are the methods that we're going to get a hold of you, primarily through email. Now, how many of you have are checking your email regularly, right? So it's not just good enough to set it up, but be checking it regularly, because if you're not checking it regularly, it's almost as if you didn't set that up. All right. One last note, if some of you have college credit through like AP or IB, or you took some classes through your local community college or through your local university, make sure that you send all official transcripts to the U of O, just so that we know what credit you have earned. You don't want to be taking classes that you've already earned credit for. Okay, so that's just a little quick reminder. If you still have some credits out there, you can talk to your advisor. If you're not sure exactly how to send those transcripts over, your advisor can give you a little bit more tips on how to do that. So let's talk about understanding your U of O degree here real quick. So your U of O degree is 180 credits. So maybe a good question to ask would be, does anybody know the difference? Does anybody know the difference between a degree and a major? So go ahead and use your chat function if you think you know the answer to that. What's the difference between a degree and a major? I'll give you a few seconds to answer there. Anyone? It's okay if you don't know, because we use a lot of different type of jargon here, and we describe your experience here in many different ways. one way to look at it is your degree is the big picture, right? The big enchilada, the whole pie. That pie that you're looking at here that has those three sections: electives, general education, and major. That's what we're referring to as your degree. Let's see here. Some people wrote major is what you study while in college. Degree is the type of diploma you get. Yes, that's true. Degree is your diploma, and your major is what your degree is specialized in. That is also correct, right? So again, like I guess the point that I'm trying to make here is your major is only a small percentage, about 30% or a third of what your entire degree here, what your entire experience is here at the University of Oregon. So it's important not to get kind of a tunnel vision and only focus on your major, because as you can see from this pie, it's only a small portion of what you're going to be doing here at the U of O. So for students to graduate, actually let's put this question in the chat. How many of you are concerned about graduating in 4 years? How many of you want to finish? Just do like a yes or something, or a no if timeline is important to you. Yeah, getting a bunch of yeses. Gosh, I wish you guys can see all the yeses coming up. There are a few no's, and that's okay as well. But generally, I mean, we're seeing a lot of responses. Yes, graduating in a 4-year timeline is important. Obviously, people want to get on with their lives, get on with their careers. People don't want to spend more money than they have to. Those things are all important. So if you want to be able to do that, just keep in mind that you want to keep an average of 45 credits per year. Okay. If you do an average of 15 credits a term, and I'm not even counting summer, I'm just counting fall, winter, and spring, and you average about 45 credits a term, you will achieve that 4-year, that your diploma, your degree in 4 years. All right. So we're going to talk a little bit about the general education requirement, commonly referred to as Gen Eds. The Gen Eds is the breadth of study. If breadth means basically you're going to be learning a little bit about a lot of things, right? Your major is the depth. You'll be learning a lot about one thing, all right, or one area, and then your Gen Eds gives you that breadth of study. To give you an idea what that looks like, your general education requirement includes some writing courses, it might include some second language courses, it might include some math, your what we refer to as groups, the arts and letters, social science, and science requirements, and then the multicultural requirements. So let's talk about writing here real quick. So some of you may have some AP or IB credit that gives you credit for writing 121. Most of you will be coming in with no writing, which means you'll be starting with the 121 requirement. 2 courses are required, 121 and then 122 or 123. What I want you to keep in mind is, this is part of your academic advising workbook that prepares you for your advising appointment. What I want you to be aware of is whether you're expecting any kind of credit, whether you've already taken some of these classes to your community college, or if you have no writing credit whatsoever. I want you to just kind of think about those things so that when you're talking to your advisor, we're not getting you in a class that you already have, right? That's the message is it's at the U of O, you don't want to retake a course that you've already earned. So make sure that you're communicating that. I'm not sure, I don't think you all have the workbooks with you, but we did send you a link so you could actually see the workbook. You'll have that as a reference that you can look back to. If you click on the link that we sent you in the original email, it will direct you to the webpage that Bill set up for us. Okay, so if you wanted to reference it, and then on the slides here we have the page number. Page 7 is where you would find some of the information on writing if you wanted to ask more information about that. Okay, so the next piece is the second language requirement and then the math requirement. Now, I want to start off by saying that the language and the math requirement are probably some of the most complicated requirements here at the U of O. So don't stress about not knowing exactly what you need to take or where you place. You will remember that you will have a conversation one-on-one with your advisor. But if something in the workshop is not quite clear, you could always put a question out to the chat, and we'll address it with the group as well. Okay, so I know this seems a little bit more of a formal presentation, but we do invite questions to the chat. Okay, so we talked about the difference, right, between a major and a degree. And does anybody know how many degrees we offer at the U of O? How many undergraduate degrees we offer? Anybody want to take a wild guess through the chat? Give you a second or so to respond. We got number 30, not quite. 30-ish. I think you're on the high side. 8, that's a little closer. So in general, most students will either, we have 5 degrees, right? We have Bachelor of Art, Bachelor of Science, Bachelor of Architecture, Bachelor of Music, Bachelor of Education. Okay, and that's it. Most students, most of you, unless you're an architecture major or an education major or a music major, there might be some of you out there. I know music for sure, there's probably a couple people maybe in music. But even music majors have the option of BA or BS. But most of you are going to either do a Bachelor of Art or a Bachelor of Science. So the only difference, and I'm going to say this again, the only difference between the Bachelor of Art and the Bachelor of Science is that the Bachelor of Art requires 2 years of college level second language, or the equivalency, right? It's not a credit requirement, it's a proficiency requirement. And the Bachelor of Science requires 1 year of college level math. Now, again, we use certain type of jargon and it gives people certain types of impressions, right? So I want to clarify that the Bachelor of Art has the same amount of science classes as the Bachelor of Science. I'll say that again. The Bachelor of Art has the same amount of science classes as the Bachelor of Science. And the Bachelor of Science has the same number of art classes required. So there's actually no difference whatsoever between a BA or a BS other than you're doing 2 years of a language, of a second language, or you're doing a year of college level math, right? And we're going to break that down a little bit so you know what this 2 years of a language means, or what the 1 year of college level math. Now, I know there might be some transfer students out there today listening, so I want you to be aware that the difference between your transfer admissions requirements, which is 2 terms of a language, or 2 years of high school language, that's different from your degree requirement, right? So 2 years in high school or 2 terms of college level gets you into the U of O. It's part of an admissions requirement for transfer students. But to graduate with a Bachelor of Arts, it'll be 2 years of a college level, which is going to be a little different. And I know there's some confusion with that. So I just wanted to clarify that. Let's talk about languages. If you want to start a brand new language, we offer lots of different languages here at the U of O. If you're interested in starting a language, usually it's 101. 101 is the course that assumes you know absolutely nothing in that language, and those sequences start in the fall. So 101 would be the first one, and you do 102, and then 103, and that's the first year. And then your second year, your sophomore year, you'll do 201, 202, and 203, and 203 completes the Bachelor of Arts requirement. Now, if you have experience in a language, let's say that you took Spanish in high school and you did really well, but you don't have AP scores or anything like that, but you maybe you have lots of experience with Spanish, you can take a placement. Maybe you already have taken the placement, and you place into 201 the second year. Then you could start 201, 202, and 203, and you are done. So you don't necessarily need to take 6 terms of language. You just need to get to 203 or the equivalent of 203. Now, some of you may not be able to place into 201 but you may be able to place into the intensive first year, like the 111, 112 for Spanish, French, or Portuguese, or 104 and 105 for Italian and German. If you're a heritage speaker, if you're a Spanish speaker that grew up speaking Spanish, you may be able to get into the 218 and 228 Spanish, which is the 228 is the equivalent of the 203, but it's for native Spanish speakers. So quickly on the chat, one more time, if you see a major here that you're interested in, put yes on the chat. If you see anything, again, you don't, just because you put yes on the chat doesn't mean that we're signing you up for that major. We're just curious to see if any of you see a major that you're kind of excited about. Anybody? Okay, it's okay. It's okay if you don't. If you see a major that you're interested on that list, chances are you will be doing some language. And the reason is sometimes certain majors are only offered in a Bachelor of Art, which means you will be required to do language. And some majors have language requirement. For example, International Studies has a 3-year language requirement. So even though it's technically offered BA or BS, the major requires 3 years of language. So this is another example, right? I'm trying to really drive this message to you. Like, there's major requirements, right? When we're talking about major requirements, does my major require language? It depends, right? You have to look at the major requirements. Does your degree require language? That's, whether if it's a BS or a BA, right? It depends. Now, what happens if you pick a major? What happens if you pick a major that that's offered BA or BS, doesn't require language, and you decide to do a BS? How much language do you need? You need 0 language. You're not required to take language if your degree and your major does not require a language. The same is true the opposite, right? If you do a BA and you pick a major that does not require math, you may not need to take a single math class if you choose not to. So keep that in mind. So we're talking about degree requirements and major requirements. If you're interested in starting a new language, I want you to be thinking about that. If you're thinking maybe French or Spanish, or take a look at the list of languages that we have to offer. You could ask your advisor what kind of language. We offer a language that you're interested in. If you have experience in a language and you want to take a placement, go ahead and take it. If you know the placement score, keep in mind that score, so you can tell your advisor, I place into this, I place into 201, or I place into the 111. If you already have credit for a language, we want to know that too, obviously, because we don't want to get you into a course that you already have credit for, right? And then, so if you want to start a brand new language that you have no experience in, then it's going to just be the 101 course that typically starts in the fall. All right, let's talk about the Bachelor of Science requirement. Before we move on, are there any questions about the Bachelor of Art requirement? Give you a few seconds to type something up if you want to. Now, just because we move on doesn't mean that you can't answer the question. I do have Ted online here too, answering questions. So just because we move on with the slides doesn't mean that you can't ask your question. Okay. So we'll be moving on here with the Bachelor of Science requirement. Remember, the year of college level math. Now, with the yes or no, how many of you see a major that you're interested in this list? Awesome. We got a lot of yeses in this one, a lot more than the BA. That's okay. Yeah, very cool. So if you see your major listed on here, I can see some math in your future. Now, it's the same situation as the BA requirement. Some of these majors will require a lot of math. Some of them may only require 1 math class. Many of these, in fact, I think all of these majors are offered BA or BS, but you still have to complete the math requirement if you do a BA, the math requirement for the major, okay? So, one example would be, let's see, business. Business requires 4, Math 111, 241, 242, 243 is typically what students will take for business. So if you do a Bachelor of Art, you will do 2 years of language and the 4 classes of math for the business major. Psychology only requires 1 math class. So if you do a BA in psychology, you will still need to complete that 1 math class, which is a requirement for that major. Okay. Hopefully that's clear. Your advisor can kind of go through that in more detail based on your specific major interest. Just to give you kind of a visual here. So the top courses listed here, Math 70 and 95, folks, those are not those do not count for credit towards your degree. However, they're excellent courses to prepare you to do really well in the courses in these other courses. If you're a business or econ major, the typical track is going to be 111, 241, 242, and 243. These are going to be requirements for business econ. If you are a science major, like chemistry, biology, those type of majors, more than likely you'll be going through this route. Now, you may be taking 251. You may not need 252. You may need 252. You may even need 253, depending on the major that you're interested in. But generally speaking, these are the sequences that you would start. Now, if you're just looking to complete the Bachelor of Science requirement, but your major does not require any specific math, and you're not really interested in algebra or trigonometry or calculus, then your other option would be this third box, this light colored box here. You could do any of these courses: Math 111, 105, 106, 107, 243, or CIS 105, 111, 115, or 122 in any order. And I know that sounds weird because you're just like, isn't 105, 106, 107 a sequence? No, it's not. You can take them in any order because there's no prerequisite to those classes except Math 95. Okay, so these are all college level courses. They're all at the same level as Math 111, right? If you're interested in math or you're taking a placement for math, actually that might be a good question to ask. How many of you have taken a placement already for math? A yes or no would be great. You won't get in trouble if you say no, but it might be good to take it, especially if you have a business or science type major, so that we know where you want to start. What your math placement will tell us is what your skill level is here today compared to U of O classes, right? If you already have credit for math, that's great. You can continue on the sequence, or you might be done if you already have credit for calculus. You may be done with your math requirement. That's cool too. So I want you to keep those things in mind as you're talking to your advisor, especially if you have credit for those classes. All right, before we move on, are there any questions about the Bachelor of Science requirement? And again, I remind you, just because we move on doesn't mean you can't type those questions in there. We have Ted answering questions through the chat as well. So give you a second here to type any questions you may have. All right, let's move on then. We're going to be talking about the groups. So the groups is like the meat of your gen ed, right? There are 3 groups. Well, I like to think that there are 4 groups, but the multicultural is technically separate from the groups. So we have arts and letters, social science, and science, and then we have the multicultural requirement. For the groups, you'll need 4 courses in each of the groups, or 15 credits in each of the groups. And we're going to go talk about more in detail about those rules and things like that down the road. But I want to talk a little bit about why is gen ed important. I think it's really important. I can't even, I don't even have a number about, how many times a student comes in and says, I just want to check off, I just want to get this gen ed done as quickly as possible. And, my first reaction is, maybe like, what, why do you want to just check something off, right? This is when we talk about your degree and how important it is and how your major is just 1/3. I want you to think about your gen ed as more than just a checklist and a way that you can develop skills that are going to make you more marketable to like an employer or to grad schools or things like that, right? So we did a little bit of research in our office, and we found that 93% of employers agree that the capacity to think critically, communicate clearly, and solve complex problems is more important than major. So 93% of employers think that just having your degree and having these skills is more important, that you can demonstrate these skills is more important than having a title or a major, right? 80% of employers agree that regardless of major, every college student should acquire broad knowledge of the liberal arts and sciences. They want creative problem solvers, people that can see problems that are multi-layered. They don't need any more robots, right? There's plenty of computers that can do those very simple equations. But when you're talking about people problems, right? And you're picking a major, but the problems of the future are not going to be they're not going to be math problems. They're not going to be English problems. They're not going to be business problems. They're going to be people problems, and people are complex. They're multi-layered. There's a lot of things going on, and you have to have someone that can think critically and see through those layers to be able to solve those complex problems, right? And that's what employers are looking for. So in chat real quick, the groups,
just a moment, Arturo.
We have the science group. I want you to maybe type what you think the type of courses that fall into the science group. What would be your guess of the type of courses or subjects, better put, or departments that you think will fall under the science group requirement? Don't be shy. You can use my pictures as a clue. Chemistry, yes, awesome. Definitely chemistry, psychology, physics. Oh, we got physics, biology. Absolutely. Those are some great examples. What about social science? Can you give me some examples of the social science group? Sociology, politics, political science. Definitely psychology. Ethnic studies, yep. Anthropology. Those are all great examples. Thanks, guys, for participating. What about arts and others? This is a little bit trickier, but again, use the pictures as clues, maybe. What kind of courses do you think fall under, or what kind of subjects do you think fall under arts and letters? Yeah, religious studies, art history, humanities, philosophy. Now, anything that, if it's art, it's where you're studying art, not when you're doing art. So if you're actually painting or doing pottery, that course will typically not count in the arts and letters. But courses where you're studying about people doing the art, then those would typically count for that area. What I want you to know about the groups is that they're not technically subject specific. If you recall, when we talked about the science group, some of you mentioned psychology, and yes, there are some psychology courses that count under groups. Some of you mentioned anthropology. Yes, there are anthropology courses that count under science, but there are also social science classes that are anthropology and psychology. So I want you to pay attention to the little symbols that we've added here. That was intentional. That wasn't a typo, even though it looks kind of weird. That little greater than 3 sign means that it's a science group science group satisfying course. And when you're doing a search on DuckWeb for courses, you're going to notice that symbol in the course title, so that you don't have to guess whether the course is science or social science or arts and letters. It takes kind of the guesswork out of it. There's also some other filters and stuff that we can use to make sure that we're searching by the correct group and that you're fulfilling requirements. The last requirement we have is the multicultural requirement. We have arts, American cultures, international cultures, identity, pluralism, and tolerance. You need 2 courses from the following categories, and they have to be from different areas, okay? So what I want you to think about now is so all this is great information, but what are you going to be registering for in the fall? Now, in the original email that we sent you, and that you don't have to do this technically right now, but when you have a moment, go back to that original email that we sent you and click on the link that provides the I think the document's called like Fall Open Classes for Fall 2016. That'll give you a list of all the Gen Ed satisfying courses that are open for fall. Go ahead and go back and refer to that list and find courses that you're interested in. Circle them, highlight them, do whatever you need to do, and bring that list to your advising appointment so we can look up those classes and see if we can create some kind of schedule for you that includes some of these Gen Ed courses that you may be excited about. Gen Ed courses are a great way to explore. So just because you're not majoring in English, doesn't mean that you can't take an English class, right? And you never know. You may be surprised. You may actually really love that class, and it may actually change the way you're thinking about your major. Remember, right now, you haven't taken any classes at the U of O, and you don't know what you don't know. So some of these majors sound really cool, but until you actually take some of these classes, you're going to get, as you take more classes, you get a better idea of what you like and what you don't like, and what you want to continue studying and maybe not so much continue studying. So speaking of majors, so remember the major is the depth of study, right? That's kind of like the focus part of your major, the kind of specialization. For you to find out what the requirements are for that major, there is the UO catalog that you can refer to. This is an online catalog. You can access it from anywhere as long as you have internet access. The web address is uocatalog.uoregon.edu. And if you click on the majors link, it'll give you the list of all our majors. Notice how it has BA or BS. That means accounting is offered in both BA and BS degrees. Notice like some of these are BFAs or bachelors of music. Oops. Right, but you get to choose if it has two. If it only has one, like English only has BA, that means it's only offered in a Bachelor of Art, right? So again, without commitment, you're not declaring a major, but I do want you to start thinking about what majors you may be interested in, or minors, because that the more of those interests that you may have that you bring to the table, the better. The more options we have as advisors to help you get into some really good classes for your fall term, okay? Let's talk about electives. Now, for some of you, in high school, maybe electives were like the quote unquote fun classes. That hasn't really changed here at the U of O, but I want you to think of electives as a little bit different than just like the basket weaving course or something like that, right? Electives is really your opportunity to explore. It's really your opportunity to either get more breadth or more depth in a specific area, whether you're just exploring maybe a possible minor, maybe you're exploring a double major, maybe you're just exploring a major just in general, right? Taking courses as electives is a great way to do that. And remember that electives piece of your degree, it varies. It varies from major to major because certain majors are different sizes. But generally speaking, most students have about 60 credits of elective. That means that you can take about 60 credits about anything that you want in any area that's not a gen ed, that's not a major, and it'll still count towards your degree. It'll still count towards your 4-year graduation. So it's a great opportunity, again, to explore and take classes that, again, you may not take through your gen ed or through your major. Some other examples could be like study skill classes, if you want to sharpen your study skills, like time management, things like that. The TLC offers 1 credit TLC 199 courses. Again, 4 credit that count towards your degree. If you're required to take AIS courses, those courses are counting towards your graduation. PE classes, we have 1 credit PE classes that you can take. Students can take a PE class every term, and they do count towards towards your degree. And then any music performance or art production course that you find that you might be interested in might be a great way to fill that space. I mentioned the study skill classes. I want you to be aware of some of the other support resources that we have on campus. The TLC offers workshops every single term. Some of the topics include like making the most of 24/7. So that's a time management course. Speed reading basics, how do you handle all the reading and stuff that you get from your classes? taming test anxiety, so you're able to focus and be able to write down on that test what you know instead of being, being overcome by the anxiety of trying to do the very best that you can. Putting off procrastination. I know I'm definitely guilty of procrastination, and these workshops help you get a system that can help you. And then 2-minute drill. This is like a research-based strategies to be just a better study, developing better study habits. And then the grammar hour workshop series. So if you need help with writing papers and stuff like that, and just becoming a better writer, the workshops are just very, very helpful. If you're thinking of exploring some subjects or just other areas that you want to explore for your electives, go ahead and keep those in mind as well as you're working with your advisors. Yeah, and somebody asked, is there an online list of all the available electives? The answer to that is yes. The online list is the class schedule. You can literally take any course on that list, and if it doesn't count for your gen eds and it doesn't count for your major, that's going to be an elective. There is no, elective can mean different things for different people. So, so basically put, if it's not counting for your major or your gen ed, and you're just taking a course, you'll find your first term or two, it might be pretty hard to actually find an elective course because a lot of the courses that you're taking will actually be gen ed courses or courses towards your major. But if you find something like the TLC course, the PE courses, those would be electives because we know those don't count for majors. We know those don't count for general education. But that doesn't mean you can't take like an English class. Let's say you've completed all your arts and letters courses, and you don't need any more arts and letters, but you love English and you want to keep studying English. Maybe you're not quite committed to a minor or a double major. You can take more English classes and they will count towards your degree. They're not going to waste because everybody has to get to at least 180 credits to graduate. And I hope that makes sense. Like even if you finished all your gen eds, get them out of the way as they say. Even if you got your major requirements out of the way, you would still have about a year or year and a half of work to do in absolutely anything that you want. So hopefully that relieves some of the pressure of like trying to get done with everything quickly, because the reality is you have a lot of room to explore. And now is the best time to do that. So on page, gosh, I can't see that page very well because there's this little thing there. On page 16 of your workbook, and again, I'm not sure whether you have a hard copy of this or you just have the online version. If you have the online version, you could actually, create, just get a piece of paper, right, that you can write down. This is kind of the order that I go through with students. I ask them questions. I ask them about, whether they have any writing credit, whether they're interested in a BA or BS, what kind of gen eds they want to take, and then what kind of major they're interested in. If you're able to write a list for your advising appointment, it just makes the appointment go a little smoother, so that, because we ask you a lot of questions and sometimes it's hard to remember things on the spot. So take some notes, and that page 16 is really there to help you put your notes in order, put your ideas in order, so that when you meet with your advisor, you're just the best prepared that you can be, okay? And you don't forget to ask specific questions. So let's talk about what the academic year looks like. So the U of O is on a term system. So one academic school year consists of 3 terms: fall, winter, and spring. So fall starts in late September until early December, and then winter goes from January to mid-March, and then April to June for spring. Notice how I didn't include summer, but summer is definitely an option, but a slightly different format, and we can talk about that down the road. It's not anything that you need to know right now. So there are 10 weeks in our term plus a finals week, so 11 weeks total for the term. The first week you might get your syllabus, but it's very, very common for you to get assignments even in your first week, and reading assignments especially. Exams and assignments can happen anytime between the 10 weeks, and there's usually a final papers or tests, or sometimes both, during finals week. Just to give you an idea of what that year looks like. To give you an idea also how quickly things turn around, by week 5, you should already be thinking about the next term. So this is fall term. um, a little over a month after you arrived, we're already going to be starting to plan your winter term. So keep that like in on your radar. Like week 5 is an awesome time to schedule an appointment with your academic advisor to be talking about, one, how is your term going? How's your current term going? And two, like, what are you thinking about for next term, right? But today we're just focusing on fall term. So with the list of classes, hopefully we've gone through and you're getting a better idea. Okay, here's some of the requirements. I may have some writing, I may have some language. There may be some social science or science classes I can take. There might be some math classes I can take, arts and letters. Maybe there's some major courses. Now, you're obviously not going to take all these courses your first term. That's a lot, right? You're going to focus somewhere between 15 and 17 credits, or 3 or 4 courses. Most of our courses at the U of O are 4 credits. And then we're going to kind of pick and choose, right, what makes sense for you your very first term here at the U of O. And that can vary, right? Yeah, depending on what's offered, what sequences you may need to get into, and things like that. But the more options you have, I think the easier the registration process is going to go for you. This is an example of what a your final schedule might look like. All right, so how many of you have logged into DuckWeb? Let's wake you up again on the chat here. Let's see how many of you have logged into DuckWeb before. Awesome, lots of yeses. Lots of yeses, that's really good. If you haven't logged in, I would encourage you to do so because it's never too early to start getting familiar with DuckWeb. You'll type in your 95 number and your PAC number. Now that PAC number is different from your email password. Your PAC number is that is it 6-digit? Yeah, anyway, I don't know how many digits it is. I think it's a 6-digit. It has like a uppercase and a number and stuff like that. And sometimes students forget the difference between their PAC and their U of O email password, and that's going to be different. So there are a lot of tools here on DuckWeb. So from your student menu, there's a lot of things that we can see here. So first of all, it's going to be your transfer evaluation report. So if you have any credit, if you're wondering whether we have received your transfer work, whether that's AP, IB, or community college work or university work, it's going to be under the transfer evaluation report. If it's not there, we either haven't received it or it hasn't been articulated. They haven't processed it yet. And it could be in process, but but it may not be on your file yet. So keep checking that. That's where you're going to find out whether we've received that or not. Your registration menu, this is where you're going to be adding and dropping classes. And then your degree audit is the tool that we use to track your progress for your degree, and that includes your major. And then your placement score, so if you took any placements for math or language or anything like that, that's going to be right there. So if you forgot where you placed, that's where you can look and see. So let's take a look at your degree audit or degree guide. Now we use degree guide and degree audit interchangeably. You'll hear some advisors say degree guide. You'll hear other advisors say degree audit. It's the same exact thing. As you can see here, there are credit requirements. Most of you will have 0 credits earned because you haven't earned any credits at the U of O or another institution. If you have some transfer work, you will see credits pop in there already. Your advisor will go through your degree audit when you meet in your advising appointment, and they'll see how your work is being plugged into our requirements. All right, from the registration menu, there are a few ways that you can use the registration menu to add classes. There's a newer tool called the Schedule Builder. Your advisor may or may not use Schedule Builder. Sometimes it works well for your first term. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes there's a better tool that we use, but it is there, and I encourage you to become familiar with that. There's the add drop function. Now, I actually use this function to drop classes. I rarely add classes using this link here because you have to know a specific number for the course to be able to add it, and that's not, it's just not very, it's just not a very great tool for adding classes, but it's a great tool to drop classes. In fact, I think that's the only place you could actually drop classes. And then search for open classes is the one that I use the most because it's a way for you to be able to search by subject. It allows you to search by general education requirements, and it's just a really great tool to be able to register for classes. So when you click on that, you want to select the appropriate term. I know that sounds weird, but there are going to be some instances where you can register for either summer or fall. You want to make sure that you're selecting the right term to register. On page 17 of your student handbook, it gives you, or the workbook, it gives you detailed instructions on how to use that tool. So just because we're going it through here, don't feel like you have to memorize it all. You can go back to page 17 and it'll give you these exact instructions. So this is what it looks like when you search for classes. Here's where you can search. Here's where you can search for courses by subject, and then down here you can search by general education courses. So there's the arts and letters, social science, and science group. Notice the greater than 1, greater than 2, greater than 3 sign. There's also the multicultural courses. Again, it really takes that guesswork out of picking classes for a specific gen ed requirement. You don't have to guess at it. There's a very specific way to do it, and your advisor can help you with that too. This is when you click submit. This is what you're going to see right now. This is very typical at the U of O. You have a large lecture course. So this lecture has 250 students, but then they break it down to about 25 students. So you'll register for the lecture, and then you register for the discussion. Plus dis means discussion. The dates that the course is offered are listed here. So this class meets Monday and Wednesday, and then it has a Friday discussion. You get to choose one of the discussions to attend. There's actually a Thursday one also, if you see that. And then, for this one, this course is offered Tuesday, Thursday with a Friday discussion. So you'll go to the large lecture on Tuesday, Thursday, and then you will pick one of the discussions to go to. You have to pick one discussion and stick with it. You can't just go to a different discussion every week. It has to be the same discussion that you pick, and they are typically graded and required. So make sure that you're going to those. If you click on that CRN, that's the course registration number. That's what's highlighted here in the red box. This will give you some information on the course. So if you're wondering what the heck is World Cultures, you can read the brief course description or the expanded course description below. There's also some very important information here, like your academic deadlines. When can you drop a class and still receive 100% refund? Now, there's a difference between dropping all your classes, which is a complete drop, and dropping just a single course and still having other courses. So make sure you read that carefully. It is a little bit tricky, and you can always ask your advisor if you need clarification, okay? Now, the next step is going to be check your email. Now, if you're going to be meeting with U of O advisors, you received a invitation for your academic advising appointment through BlueJeans. And so we'll just wait for you to log in for your one-on-one appointment through BlueJeans. Some of you are meeting with other departments, and you'll be receiving an email for instructions on how to go about scheduling your advising appointment. Or maybe they've already even reached out to you and you already have your advising appointment scheduled either through the phone or Skype or other systems. But I believe there's about 12 or 13 of you that received an invitation through BlueJeans to have your advising appointment here. So go back to those, double check the times. Remember, we set it up with Pacific Standard Time. Make sure that you're checking it with your local times that you make it on time. Be on time and bring your ideas. And then hopefully within that appointment, you'll be able to register for classes. You'll receive a PIN number and things like that. Okay, so we're going to skip these slides, but congratulations. We'll hang around if you have any quick questions or any kind of clarification questions about the slides or requirements. Go ahead and type it up in the chat. If you don't, you can go ahead and leave the appointment. That's fine. And we'll see all of you here in the fall. All right. Congratulations again. And you're now officially Ducks. We'll see you soon. Thank you all.
Arturo, can you leave the feed going for a little bit, please?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Could you leave the feed going for a moment? I'm answering some questions.
Yeah, it's still going.
Thank you.